Well, we're keeping a close eye on the tropics as we always do this time of year, but especially in the next week or so, as we've got two tropical waves pushing across the Atlantic and the Caribbean Sea. Meteorologist Lauren Rautenkranz here behind the camera, by the way. I'm recording this on Tuesday, August 18th, around 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, can you pick out those tropical waves on our satellite and radar? It's busy here at home with those summertime storms, but also across the tropics. We've got one batch of thunderstorms that is swirling in the eastern Caribbean Sea. It is labeled Invest 97L. Invest 98L is then out in the tropical Atlantic, that big batch of thunderstorms that is on the right side of your screen. We have already crossed off A through K on the 2020 list of cyclone names. So Laura and Marco would be the next on the list to cross off. And could we be crossing them off in the next few days? Possibly so. You can see by the red shading on both of these X's that there is a high chance within the next 5 days that we're going to see some development with these tropical waves. Now, the one on the left side of your screen, the one in the Caribbean Sea, a little closer to home, has not really got its act together quite yet. So in the short term, I'm thinking that Invest 98, the one still out in the Atlantic on the right side of your screen, would be the one that would be to see a name first, if we shall say. That's because it's got more thunderstorms wrapped around it, and it's also getting more of a circulation that's defined at its core, which is really the definition of a cyclone. Cyclones, remember, can be a hurricane, can be a tropical storm, can be a storm in the winter that's moving across the United States, or even a typhoon in the Pacific. So it could become a depression or a tropical storm later this week. Both of them actually have a good chance. Look at where the spaghetti models take them. Now that they are labeled Invests, we can now get the spaghetti models with both of them. They travel toward the west generally. So Invest 97, moving again already across the Caribbean, likely to be impacted by land a bit sooner. Also, it's moving at a bit more rapid of a pace, so that is slowing down the development chances as well. Now, Invest 98 out at sea has a little bit more time to sit over those waters. Now, it's going to be interesting to see if it does take the track that the spaghetti models are showing it. How much is that mountainous terrain in the islands going to impact this storm? But really, all bets are still on. This storm could still stay out to sea and recurve, or it could head a little farther south out into the Gulf of Mexico. So definitely something to keep an eye on, worth staying tuned to updates at least once a day. If you do anything, just maybe check in with us every now and then so you can see what these changes are. Now, we'll talk about 97L in just a bit, but I do want to focus on 98L a bit more because it has a higher chance of impacting us here at home. So we have this thing called the Intertropical Convergence Zone, the ITCZ, and we talk about it a whole lot during the hurricane season because it's an area where we have a lot of thunderstorm development. We have the trade winds colliding from the northern and the southern hemispheres, and we got a lot of convergence, a lot of rising air, a lot of humidity to help fuel those thunderstorms. Now, within that ITCZ, we have what's called the monsoon trough, where we kind of get those trade winds on the southern hemisphere to veer a bit more out of the southwest, which really maximizes that cyclonic vorticity. And so 98L is actually within that monsoonal trough. And so you can see it's a very broad area of low pressure, which is why it hasn't been given a name just yet. Oh, and by the way, do you see all the way on the right side of your screen? Yep, there's another batch of storms that's already moving off of the coast of Africa as we speak. So the tropics are just going to continue to remain active in the next several weeks, to say the least. So here's Invest 98L on a different look here with our wind streams. And you can see those trade winds colliding in that long area of that monsoonal trough. But where I've got the L labeled is kind of where the National Hurricane Center is showing that center of circulation right now. That's what the models are going off of. And so once we actually get that clear defined center of circulation, it could be a little farther north, it could be a little farther south of where we're thinking it is right now. It could be farther east or west. Basically what I'm saying is Not until we have that clear center of circulation is really when the models start performing well and at their best. So at this point, we think we have a pretty good idea of where we believe the center is, but that could change and that could catch up with our models in the next 24 to 48 hours. So make sure to continue to stay tuned, like I said, because this is going to change. Still plenty of ifs when we're watching these two waves. Now they're generally moving toward the west, right? Which is why we've got to keep our guard up here across the United States as a whole. Because at this point, remember, a lot of scenarios are still possible. But what we are going to be watching closely is this area of high pressure. Our dominant Atlantic ridge is really going to help to steer these storms either farther west or help them curve back up to the north a little bit sooner. Right now, because of 98L's position near that high pressure, because of how strong it is, it's getting pushed off to the west rather quickly. And same with 97L. It's moving at a decent pace. And so it doesn't look like if it's going to develop, it's going to develop within, beyond the next 48 hours. It would have to kind of slow down just a tad. Right now it's moving at about 20 miles per hour plus, and Invest 98L is also moving about 15 to 20 miles toward the west. So as we progress this forward, it is looking like that high pressure ridge is going to build out toward the west in the coming days. Now, as that happens, it continues to shift these tracks farther to the west, which would be good news for Florida. But it would, of course, keep our friends along the northern and western Gulf Coast a little bit more on edge, to say the least. So, of course, we're going to keep an eye on it, but at this point, they are still just too close for comfort. And we're really not going to get a good handle on these things until they can get their act together a bit more. But just so you know, I'm sure you've seen this graphic before. Peak season is September 10th. The season ends November 30th, and I'm already ready for that extra sleep when hurricane season ends. But hey, we're ready, and we are in storm mode here at First Coast News. The weather team is rocking and rolling and trying to keep you as informed as possible. So again, make sure to stay tuned to updates. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can always get a hold of us on First Coast News Weather Watchers. It's a Facebook group. If you haven't joined it, pop on over and join on Facebook.